talk about, like what you are working on. Good, we're
What we're
live.
working on. Yeah, you should give us a little more info on that. Don't start with me then. Start with someone else. Then
Yeah, go on.
I'll go.
More related to the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more
what are you?
related to healing. All right, I think we're live. Let's give it a couple more minutes. Lots of people saying hi. Trista, there's a lot of people from your country here. I see a lot of hi from
Yay!
Canada. A couple down under, Claire. Gail from Australia. Hey, Gail. Crystal, Rebecca. Our favorite Rebecca is here. Hey, Rebecca. Rebecca is wonderful. She's part of our Moonrise community. Chris, yeah, I recognize that name. I think she's from Moonrise too. Hi, Chris. Rob, hi. Oh, Mary, well done. Well done. Lots of people joining us. It's 10 p.m. London, 6 a.m. Bali, 5 a.m. Where Samantha is, which is Bangkok. What's your time, Trista, in Canada?
It's a lovely 5 p.m.
5 p.m. And we have
Yeah.
Claire that's joining us from New Zealand. Is it 7 a.m. for you, Claire?
No, I'm 11 p.m. No, 11 a.m.
Is it 11 already? Wow. Wow. I thought it was just a couple of hours ahead of us. So well done. Welcome, everybody, to our very first. Oh, Dr. Breeze here too. Hi. You made it in the nick of time. How are you?
I'm great. How are you all?
We are fantastic. So happy to have you. What's the time where you are?
It's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Perfect. Perfect. I think we've covered all time zones, literally.
Nice.
Beautiful. So welcome, guys, to our first Super Healer Summit. I want to say a warm welcome to all our viewers joining us on YouTube. We are so excited to be putting this together. Yeah, it's been a dream of Philippa and mine since she started getting her health back to see how we can give back all the knowledge and really aggregate all the knowledge because everybody has so much interesting wealth of information to contribute with, and we just wanted to see how we can bring it all together. So the summit is our attempt at doing that. We're going to be meeting all of you over the next couple of days. So today is day 1. We have day 2 coming up tomorrow and day 3 on Sunday. And yeah, it's going to be a blast. We've also, so everybody that's watching us from YouTube, what we've done is we've recorded tons of materials. We're going to do some live. We're going to drop a lot of them recorded over the next 3 days. We've done lots of exercise videos. We've done lots of inspiring stories. So everything coming your way in your inbox. And day 3, we're going to be launching a book called Super Healers, where you're going to meet all these wonderful ladies even more in detail with all their stories. So it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a pelvic blast, right?
It already is.
It already is.
I would say. Yeah. No, people have been so excited over the last couple of weeks, and now we're finally here. And I know some will watch us live, some will watch this as a recording. And I'm just thrilled. I'm super happy and excited to have not only our amazing practitioners, but also for the first time, my husband, because I share so much on my YouTube channel about different methods and mindset on healing and all of that. And it's like the person that I share this with the most, actually, he has almost never appeared anywhere. And so this is my partner in crime, and I'm so happy that you are here, finally a bit more official.
Yeah. There's always a man behind a successful woman.
Yeah, probably. I think so. Yeah, I needed you at least. And I know so many women do also with partners. And I know that you can also give that perspective here.
Yeah.
And that you're doing that in the book.
True, yeah.
We're going to talk more about the book. But right now we're here, we're going to have an amazing discussion, and please feel free, of course, to post any questions on YouTube. And we've gotten some questions beforehand too, so we're going to make sure to cover, if not today, one of the other 2 days we'll cover all the questions that you may have. So I just want to share quickly about my own journey. I think most of our viewers already know about my journey, which started when I gave birth, 2016, and then escalated for after giving birth in 2019 when I had the symptomatic prolapses. And I had no clue what a prolapse was. So for me, this has been such a transformative journey where, you know, I've been, of course, understanding what a prolapse is, but so much more than that. I now know so much more about my body, about women's bodies, about healing. I was working as a yoga teacher for about 15 years before I had the prolapse. So I thought I knew my body. I thought I was really body aware, and I was in a way, but this has opened up doors that I am hoping it will for all of you who are listening today too, because it can really be such a beautiful transformative journey. And healing your pelvic floor is such a gift, and I am honored to be here today to be with all the amazing women who are joining. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for that. And I want to take the opportunity now. We're going to do a lot of talking, but I want us to breathe first. So if all of us can just sit comfortably. So I'm closing my eyes. You can close your eyes if you want to. If that is not accessible for you, you don't need to. But just see if you can find your sitting bones rooting down. And then visualize your spine growing up from your sitting bones, from your pelvis, all the way up toward the sky. And start to focus on your breath. Inhaling through the nose. And exhaling gently through the mouth. And maybe you want to put your hands on your rib cage and just feel your ribs expanding while you are inhaling. Soft breaths, just connecting with your life force, your breath. You can place your hands somewhere else on your rib cage, maybe on the backside or over your heart, wherever you feel you want to experience that expansion of you breathing into the bottom of the lungs, filling up the lungs all the way gently, and then softly exhaling, relaxing the jaw and the face. So let's just take 3 more here in your own pace. You can stay with this breathing with closed eyes and just listen. Or if you wish to open your eyes and come back to the room, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Philippa. That really set the stage. What I like to do is to give you the stage, Dr. Bree, and then we'll go to Trista, we'll go to Claire, and we'll go to Sam. It's the order. And take about 5 minutes and set the stage from your point of view on what healing is and yeah, your journey, and we'll go from there. So, Dr. Bree, I'll make sure your images come up in a second.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Um, so yes, I've shared some slides that were really important for me just as I've kind of navigated my own healing journey, and then also as I work with clients. And this is the image I wanted to be sure that we shared today, because healing is not linear. Like it's a winding, twisting path. And I think some people can really benefit from being reminded about that now and then, that there's lots of ups and downs on this journey. Not every day will be the same. And for me, I came to pelvic health. Oh gosh, I mean, I graduated from physical therapy school in 2006 and ended up transitioning pretty quickly into pelvic floor as my specialty. And part of that was my own pregnancy and postpartum struggles. I did develop a mild prolapse after my son was born in 2007. And then over the years, I was able to help myself, really begin working with clients and helping them, really focusing a lot of my practice on prolapse and prolapse recovery. And then I developed more issues with pelvic tension than anything else, personal issues with pelvic tension that impacted my sexual health, my pain. I think that I always dealt with pelvic tension, as digestion and constipation have been issues for me my whole life. So I think this has been a long-standing thing. But I've had a lot of ups and downs over the years with pelvic tension and pain. So I feel like I've seen it all and worked with it all on myself and also with my clients. And through it all, this little picture here that I think people can see on the screen, it just really shows that there's lots of ups and downs. But as you said, Philippa, it really can be a gift to reframe some of the aspects of our pelvic floor challenges, because we can learn so much from them. So I know I don't have too long to chat because there's so many wonderful other people who need to share their stories, but am I right in that, just kind of sharing like one little takeaway? Is that important? Yeah, okay, perfect. So I think my big takeaway is that there's kind of a paradox between this fact that what I have on this next slide here is that there's a lot to pelvic floor challenges, whether we're talking about bladder leakage or prolapse or pelvic pain, pelvic tension. More often than not, it's not just a structural issue, something where you can just go in and fix a certain muscle and by doing an exercise and you'll be all better. There's usually a lot to it. And there is, of course, exercise helps. There is structural issues associated with pelvic floor challenges, but there's also often stress, fear, belief systems you may have about what this means for you, for your future. You may be putting a lot of pressure on yourself to get better fast, or have expectations that your healing needs to happen in a certain timeline. There may be a lot of really negative self-talk about your body. I've, heard a lot of people say that their body is broken, and this kind of self-talk can really get to us. And we may have this deep desire to like belong and maybe think that nobody else is dealing with this and we're the only ones that deal with it. And really, we just want to feel safe. And so that's kind of all like underneath the tip of the iceberg. So we may see the tip of the iceberg as our pelvic floor problem, but there's a lot underneath. And so I see this paradox of pelvic health issues in that there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And it's also really simple. Like at the same time, even though there's a lot to it and taking a holistic approach is really important, I think going back to that other slide, the little healing is not linear slide, I think this is what makes my heart happy, is just realizing that although there's a lot to it, and it's so important to learn through all of these gifts and things that we can take from our pelvic health challenge and look at, just taking it one day at a time, just one day at a time, one step at a time is really the most important part, because that's going to allow you to be able to breathe, to be able to like just put one foot in front of the other so that you don't get overwhelmed with all that there can be to it. So I hope that made sense. It's a paradox. Like there's a lot to it, and yet just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and just be compassionate with yourself through the process, because it is quite beautiful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bree. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this amazing event.
Yeah. Well, I can really, especially when I was healing, I was just like having this kind of like healing schedule, and we're going to do this, and we're like, it's so complex and I need to figure it out. And then like I always came back to like, no, it's the simple things. Like
Yeah.
it's maybe not even what I think it is. Like we can't really think us to do it. It's more, I think we need more ease, or
Yes.
many like when,
Yeah.
but it's hard, of course, because it's such a
Right.
struggle and it creates so many limitations. So, but thank you for sharing. I completely agree. I love this non-linear healing journey. I can really
Yes.
recognize myself.
Yeah. Me too.
And
Thank
I
you.
almost felt like, you know, two personalities during that, because when I was taken down, it was so deep. And then I was so extremely happy and on a high. And I was like, yeah, I can do it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we learn to hold all of it, don't we? We learn to hold
I think
all of
that's the
this.
thing. Like we
Yeah.
expand in that way. We expand our capacity for sitting with very challenging and extreme opposites. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bree. Trista, do you want to set the stage from your point of view?
Sure. Well, I have very similar. It would flow nicely from what Bree was. I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of what I was going to say. That's what I would say. So, anyway, although my personal journey with pelvic floor dysfunction and the discovery of my pelvic organ prolapse came when I was a little bit later. Like my kids were 12 and they were 6, and I was 42, and I kind of thought that I had escaped anything that might have been related to pelvic floor dysfunction by that age. I didn't have any incontinence or any symptoms after I had my kids. So I just thought I was golden, until I found out this piece of information. And my background is a trainer. I'm a personal trainer, so a fitness trainer. For over 30 years now, I think. So for a while. And yes, being a cyclist, runner, cross-country skier, strength training, this piece of information that I was told was devastating to me. And not only was I told that I had the prolapse back then in 2012, they were kind of giving advice to stop doing all my exercise for fear that it was going to make it worse. So that in itself would have put me through like an emotional roller coaster, because that was kind of my life. That was my identity. It's who I am. It's my passion and what I love to do. And it's also everything I would have used to help me emotionally cope with this diagnosis. And so, yeah, I had never heard of pelvic organ prolapse before myself. I was shocked 100%. I think everybody has their own journey from discovery to recovery, shall we say. And I agree. It's definitely a roller coaster ride of emotions. And I remember being really angry, really frustrated at the fitness industry. Everything I thought I knew about core health and core function, I was now told not to do because I was causing detrimental harm to my pelvic floor. So that made me really upset. And then I guess after all of that emotional devastation and being consumed by this diagnosis, I remember lying in bed with my son and just finished reading my book and lying there and be like, okay, you know what? Get a grip. Like, this is not terminal. This is not going to dictate what you can and can't do for the rest of your life. Like, I am not settling for this. Surgery is not something that I'm see in my future, and I got to figure it out. And I, like you mentioned, that there is a lot of negative talk before, all the things that you can't do and not supposed to do. Every time I heard those words come into my brain, I flipped the switch. I'm like, no, you got this, and you have to like positive self-talk yourself to death. And it's just like to bring yourself out. And I think it's really important to offer yourself patience and gentle kindness and the supportive words that you would offer a friend that's going through the same thing. And I think we're so hard on ourselves and we want immediate feedback and to heal so badly, so fast. And if we wouldn't treat a kid that way that's learning to walk for the first time and get angry because they fall down and they need to get back up and learn how to do it again. So why are we like this with ourselves, you know? So I think it's really important to offer yourself the patience. And then when you have the patience, then you can kind of be like, okay, now you can see things in a bit of a bigger picture instead of getting stuck in the mud. You can kind of look at like, wait a minute, there is a way out. You listen to people, you talk to people, you're not just like in the mud. You can see the paths that you want to take. And then I think you're able to make decisions that you feel good about because you're educated. And then you can ask the questions to the professionals and learn and treat it like I kind of say treat it like a little bit of an adventure. You know, if people come to me and ask me, like, what do I think about a pessary? I'm like, there is no harm in exploring the option of a pessary. I'm like, go find out about it. Be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know about that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you're going to walk away from that appointment with more knowledge, and knowledge is gold. And then you can decide, is this right for me or is it not right for me? And you can explore it. So I think that to be have an open mind to listen and learn is so important. That's how I came into the hypopressive technique, which for me was my like, oh, restored my pelvic floor, was my miracle. It's what I'm the most passionate about and what I've been training over the past over a decade now, I guess. Um, but you know, it was foreign. Nobody knew about it then. It wasn't in North America. I could have been like, what the heck is that? That is weird. I'm not doing that. Like, that doesn't look right. Instead, I was like, no way. What is that? Like, I got to try that. That looks and makes sense to me in my body. So I think it's so important to explore and see what it resonates well with you. And if I was going to offer a little bit of something to think about or consider with your own body. I think the breath is such a key component to this. And with pelvic floor, like you say, we really need to take a full body perspective from like emotional, psychosocial aspect from the body, from head to toe to the fingertips, not just like look at the symptom itself, but there's such a bigger picture to it. And when we explore that bigger picture, then it's like, oh my God, you will figure out what can be contributing to these symptoms that you're having. And I think breath is such a huge piece, and we hold so much in the breath. And I think if you can start to allow yourself the opportunity to feel the breath and explore the breath, so many different ways of exploring breathing and breathwork techniques, that it will start to slowly make change from the emotional part to the full body perspective and start to unlock some things in a wide spectrum, shall we say. So I kind of like to say, yeah, just pause during the day. Be like, wait a minute. Oh, how am I standing? How am I breathing? Okay, I got this. I got this. I can feel the breath, just like Philippa did in the beginning. Have the hands on the rib cage. Oh, there it is. Okay, feel the ribs expand. Feel them glide back in towards the midline. Focus on the domes, you know, and you're like, okay, I got this. It doesn't have to be 5 breaths, 10 breaths. It can be 1 breath, you know? And so that's my spiel. I better stop there because I will go on and on, but I think that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, beautiful, Trista. I just want to say a couple of quick things. Dr. Bree, you're getting a lot of love here for being part of this event. A lot of people saying thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Trista, a lot of women, or a couple of women saying they relate to your story a lot. Mia here says she was 42 too when she discovered her symptoms or the symptoms. So thank you for sharing, Trista. Lots of questions coming up. We're going to answer all of them after Claire and Samantha do their introductions too. So keep the questions coming. I have a pretty good note here of the questions, so we'll be answering them in very soon. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite you, Claire, to come on stage and share a little bit about your perspective on pelvic floors, healing, and everything around your work.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here today. Thank you for the event, and I'm loving hearing everybody's sharings. And just to carry on from that idea of the breath, this inhale and this exhale, this expansion and contraction. And I was listening this morning on my way home from a night duty around, it's a beautiful book by Sharon Blackie called Foxfire, Wolfskin, and Other Stories of Shape-Shifting Women. And then I was pondering about women's bodies' capacity to shapeshift, and particularly to expand and contract and to move and to be transitional. And my perspective comes from that of midwifery, of watching the expansion and contraction that happens, with breasts, with belly, as the baby's head crowns, and then with the womb afterwards. And it comes from working with scar tissue, which is also that physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual capacity we have to expand and contract. And as you were both talking, I was thinking about, what sometimes when our body shows us a sign, either a prolapse or pelvic pain or pelvic tension, it's almost like breadcrumbs down a pathway deeper into our instincts or deeper into the intelligence that's held in every cell. And I was thinking about how the cells have such an intensity to grow and to live. And, you cannot fight with life force, right? You cannot fight with life force. You can't fight with breath. You can't fight with the body of a child that grows. You can't fight with the body trying to breathe and blood trying to flow around the body. And I was thinking, again, Dr. Bree, how you had talked about this healing journey being up and down. And then what's often not spoken about is the gifts that can come about within this transition or this invitation to more deeply be in relationship with our bodies and more deeply be in trust with our bodies. And actually that reclamation of particularly a woman's body from so many years of industrialized, capitalist, patriarchal society where women's bodies are too fat or too hairy or too smelly or too liquid or unintelligent or shameful, that women's bodies are a place of shame. And often if there's prolapse symptoms for many women, there can be even more experience of shame. And our pelvises for many women holds a space of shame. And how incredible it can be sometimes when there's a spotlight turned on this part of our body, either through symptoms or discomfort or tension, how it offers an opportunity to work with that transformative alchemical ability that happens in our bodies. We alchemize food, we alchemize oxygen to blood, and how we can alchemize our experiences. And to reframe the lens, I think also we're in a culture that's so about achievement and what you can get done, but what if we reframe the lens of what is this opportunity allowing me to alchemize? What is this opportunity of symptoms of tension or pain with lovemaking or symptoms of prolapse? And when I've worked with women, it's so unusual. They come in with a very physical symptom, and more often than not, it's deeply interrelated with their ability to speak up in the world, or their ability to end a relationship that's not working for them, or their ability to rest, or their ability to transform an experience of birth or an experience of childhood or an ancestral experience of what they learned of being in their bodies from their mothers and fathers or their grandmothers or the culture that they're in. And so I suppose what I'm offering is that reminder of the invitation that our bodies sometimes offer to us when we are symptomatic. What's this inviting me into? What's this inviting me into, not only on a way of getting to know my body more or offering my body more health, but what's this inviting me into in terms of deeply considering how I stand in my power and how I stand in this divinity of this body that I'm in? What's the invitation that's offered? So, yeah, And probably just how easy it can be from my perspective of watching women, particularly if they, are experiencing post-birth scar tissue or scar tissue from endometriosis or scar tissue from unseen or unseen scars from previous sexual experiences or life experiences. Sometimes it can feel so like overwhelming, like how am I going to manage this? But also coming back to what Philippa and Trista and Bree have mentioned, Dr. Bree, the simplest thing of presence and breath. What's it like to come into relationship with my physicality, with my vulva, with my vagina, with my pelvis, with my bones? What's it like to come into relationship with this part that I do not want to look at? What's it like to come into relationship with my rage, the ecstasy of my rage or my power? And I just feel so excited at the thought of that, that the simplest thing of the question of what's it like to come into relationship, the courage to come into relationship with presence, with breath, with my body and beyond my body. And I don't know how I am there for time.
Wow, thank you, Claire. And you have an amazing program at Moonrise where you really dive into. I love the anatomical perspectives you give on the pelvis and the pelvic floor, because many people knows kind of some names of the muscles, for example, but you go through like all the ligaments, all the there's so much more to it. So it gives such a deep knowledge and understanding of that perspective. But also you have parts of the program are around scar tissue and how to work with that. And through the program in so many videos, and you created this, I think probably a couple of years after I healed. And in those videos, you repeatedly say, you are not broken. And despite that I had healed, every time you said that, I was just like, it's because it's so much right there, I think. And what you said about women like being too big or too hairy or too smelly or like there's and I think that iceberg also that you showed, Dr. Bree, it's like the prolapse, yeah, it's just that, but all those other complex things as we experience as women that we might not even be aware of. You really have to face it when it comes to your pelvic floor, usually if you have hard symptoms to work with, because yeah, it's challenging being a woman in these times, for sure. So thank you
it
for
kind
your
of
offering, Claire. Yeah,
it
sorry,
kind of
Trista.
gives a deep dive within, like you learn a lot. It's a deep dive within, and you're exploring deeper than you thought you were going to ever dive, and you learn way more about yourself than you ever thought. But it grows, you grow, you grow as a human being, and it's a pretty amazing journey if you allow it to be that way, and maybe it's because I'm looking back on it. It's harder to be when you're actually in it, but we're offering you the opportunity to get different perspectives, I think, a little bit on this too. And yeah, anyway,
Exactly.
sorry,
Yeah,
I
and
just
what
jumped in
you
there.
yeah, sorry. What you said before, Trista, about you said something about not accepting your situation, or like whenever you heard those negative things that you couldn't do, and I think all of us here today, not us like the practitioner side, but everyone listening is onto that. Like they want to hear another voice. They are exploring something else. And I think that's also what we are trying to offer here, all of us, from slightly different perspectives, but I really think the core is kind of the same for everyone.
100%.
Beautiful, lots of questions. Claire, a lot of people loved your perspective, but there are also some questions around, Claire, what do you do? So we're going to come back on that in the Q&A, and so I want to give the stage now to Sam. So Sam, take us through your journey, your learnings, and then we'll get into the Q&A part. There's tons of questions to go through, so hopefully we have enough time. But take it away, Sam.
Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm so excited to be part of the panel. My story begins really, I've always led a very healthy and active life. And 2 years ago, during a Zumba class, I felt something drop in my pelvic region. Initially, I completely ignored how I was feeling, what was physically happening to me. And it got to a point where I thought, I cannot ignore this anymore. So I went to see my gynecologist and was diagnosed with multiple prolapses along with stress incontinence, which completely shook my world. I couldn't believe what was happening to me because the whole of my life I'd tried to look after myself, eating well, doing lots of exercise. So I went through a phase of just not knowing what to do. I was so emotionally up and down. The gynecologist recommended that I did Kegels on a daily basis, and also recommended that I would need to prepare myself for surgery. So it was just a complete whirlwind for me. I could barely function. I couldn't really look after my children. I was almost a different person. But I've had different experiences with traditional medicine, and I knew deep down in my heart that it was only one possible route or understanding as to what was happening to my body. So I then started a huge project, doing lots of research over a few weeks. Unfortunately, I came across Philippa and Moonrise, which completely changed my whole experience, physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. So I can't thank Philippa and Mahesh enough for the wonderful gift that is Moonrise. So from that, I then basically watched all of Philippa's videos and I got a huge amount of understanding. For me, part of the healing journey, I think the panel members have also mentioned this, is understanding what is happening to your body and knowing the information. I felt as soon as I started to understand my symptoms and then how I was feeling, that almost gave me the energy to actually go forward and find the healing method that was right for me. So I enrolled on the Hyperpressives program, and Abby was my trainer. And within a few months, I started to feel so much better physically with my symptoms and in my general self in terms of emotions. And my energy levels were much higher. And I just felt much more optimistic. I did try lots of different healing methods. So I would say that it's good to know all the different methods that are out there, but you need to trial them for you, because what might work for me might not work for someone else. And also give yourself time, which I think the panel have also mentioned. We have this expectation, I think, that the healing is going to be an upward trajectory, but my personal experience is it's been, yes, it started off wonderfully and that was an emotional high, but then it does tend to dip and peak and also plateau. And actually for me, the plateau was probably quite frustrating. So I had to find different ways to push my healing forward. But I've been in my healing journey now for about 2 years. And I've managed to heal 2 of my prolapses. I still have 1 to go. But I completely believe that I can do it because I have done it. And I know that with the help and support of the wonderful community around us, that it is possible. I didn't really have a connect with my pelvic region. And I think as Claire, as you've mentioned, it's so important to understand what is happening and actually feel that you are part of that area. Because I think we have we were brought up really to kind of isolate that area from us. Personally, for me, I didn't have any connection with my body. And I did a lot of work on somatics. And it was really through that I got to know myself again and regained my identity as a woman. And it completely changed the way I feel. I can now listen to my body and understand a bit more about what I need to do to support myself. And I think, Philippa, what you were saying about the timetable for healing, I fell into that trap initially. I had my program for each day, what I was going to do, but that doesn't work, unfortunately. You need to really listen to what your body wants to do today. So I might alternate my methods. It is a slow process, so I think patience, as we've mentioned, is a key part of it. But just being open-minded to healing methods that perhaps might not naturally come to you. But I really do believe that we need to try these things to find out if they're going to be something that we would want to consider using for the future. But although what's happened to me hasn't been pleasant, I completely put my hand up about that. It has given me my true passion, and I feel like now I'm walking my true path, because I've trained under Abby to become a hyperpressive teacher. So now I feel as if I can support women who are suffering with pelvic floor challenges and dysfunction on a physical level, but also mentally and physically, because I can empathize with what they've been going through. And I feel like having a community where we actually have a safe space to actually speak about how we're feeling is a huge part of the healing journey. Certainly for me, in the initial stages, I completely stayed mute. No one knew what was happening. They just thought I was having a bad day. But slowly, I think, speaking to people that you trust, family, friends, and through sharing the experiences, you might be amazed that other people are going through similar issues to you. But because in society, we're not encouraged to talk about intimate issues, but it is so liberating and good for your mental health to be able to verbalize how you're feeling emotionally. So I do feel as if you can, try and find a safe space and speak to someone about it. So it's wonderful that we've got the Moonrise Health Summit, because this is another opportunity for us to say that we matter, we care, put ourselves first, and share the experiences that we're having. Because I think when I was doing my research, Dr. Bree, you can correct me on this, but I believe that the statistic is about 50% of women might go through some kind of pelvic health challenge during that time.
Yes.
That
Prolapse. And then
it was so alarming when I read that, and I just thought, I'm not alone, because I felt as if I was the only person who was going through this. But just knowing that it's lots of people experience it through different reasons. For me, I maybe it was a birth issue, or maybe it was doing years of high intensity workouts, or postural issues. There's a whole range of factors I could attach to my personal experience. But I just think that it's so important for us to support each other along the healing journey. And the healing journey for some people might be short, but for others it's long term. And for me, I accept that it will probably be a long-term journey, but I've learned so much about myself along the way, and meeting wonderful people in our community, that although I tried to put a positive spin on it, although what's happened to me wasn't pleasant, it actually changed my life for the better, and it's given me a new purpose and a new career path where I feel I can actually help other people with their
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sam. Love the story. Love the fact that you're walking the path all the way to the other side. Actually, yeah.
And that you are also now a part of the Moonrise practitioner community.
Yeah.
So
Done.
yeah. So Sam is having classes with us now. Just wanted to mention that too.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think we have lots of questions.
Yeah, and I'm conscious of time. You're going to meet me in day 3 in more detail, where I cover sort of the partner's role, which is what my take on the book is, and the importance of having the right kind of support around you. I just want to quickly mention, when Philippa discovered the symptoms that she had, my immediate reaction was to let's fix the problem. But with the benefit of hindsight, after the last 6, 7 years, I realized how important it is to give the body the right amount of time and the right amount of support. So I'll talk a little bit about, the partner's role in it on day 3, and yeah, share some more experiences there. But I want to get into the questions, and let's start here. So yeah, there's a lot of people thanking us for being together from different parts of the world and for bringing things together. A lot of comments around, yeah, just bringing how we're bringing things together. So very happy to see that. So the first question from the Cavi Girl 96: best advice for managing pelvic floor spasms and pain at home yourself while also attending PT. Anybody wants to venture an answer there?
Please, Dr. B.
Pelvic floor spasms. So I have intimate experience with something called proctalgia fugax, which is like a painful, fleeting rectal spasm. It's very, very painful. And that is extreme. I don't know what kind of spasm this is referring to, but in general, tension and pain and spasm is like a tightening up of the muscle all of the sudden, and that can cause a lot of pain. So there are many techniques that I have, and I bet you the others have lots of thoughts on this too. But I'll say that some very important and helpful things for me and for my clients have been breathing is hard. Sometimes deep breathing can be hard when you're in the height of that spasm. And so while, of course, deep breathing would be wonderful, it can be hard to do right in that moment. So that's where some kind of external topical things have helped me, such as like warm heat, like taking a bath, or even applying like a warm compress to the area where there's pain or the surrounding areas. Because even if the pain is in your rectum or in your vagina, depending on, your anatomy, you can put a warm pack or a hot water bottle or something like that in a nearby area and still experience some relief. And then then you can experience enough relief to begin some of the deep breathing or some of the stretches and other types of relaxation techniques that are super helpful. But sometimes I need the little external support just in the moment, like that little something I can apply. And heat, I find, is old-fashioned and super helpful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Bree. Moving on to the next question here. What is the correlation between pelvic floor prolapse and, let me get this right, diverticultis? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Is a question from Imam Moria. Anybody wants to give an answer?
Can you repeat it?
What's the correlation between pelvic floor prolapse and diverticultis? Do you know what that is? Diverticultis? Yeah, Dr. Bree.
Diverticulitis, it's like an inflammation in your intestines. In your intestines. Is large intestine? Oh my gosh, I can't remember that part, but yes. And it can cause a lot of pain. It's almost like food gets kind of stuck, and it can be very, very painful. So I have a couple thoughts. Again, I don't want to take up the stage here, but one thing is that can cause a lot of pain after people eat. They get pain if it's not controlled. Their food, their dietary issues are not controlled. Their sensitivity is not controlled. It can cause pain, which can then cause tension and tightness. When you have pain anywhere, what does your body want to do? It wants to protect you by tightening up. And so if you have tension, if you have clenching in your stomach, that can cause downward pressure on your pelvic organs, which can contribute to prolapse. If you have tension anywhere in your pelvic area, that can make your prolapse sensations feel worse. And the other thing is, along with diverticulitis can come various digestive concerns, whether or not people have diarrhea or constipation, especially though if you're having constipation, which may not always be associated specifically with diverticulitis, but if you have constipation and are chronically pushing, that could be associated with prolapse as well. So poop issues are definitely associated with prolapse, definitely. So I'd say tension, clenching, pain, and poop issues.
Thank you, Dr. Bree. Claire, this one is for you. People want to understand who you are and your work, and you mentioned a book. Can you repeat the name of the book and any other books you recommend?
Well, I'm a grandma and I'm a midwife, and I am a scar tissue remediation practitioner. I studied with STREAM with Alan Heed. I'm a craniosacral therapist and a somatic sexologist. So I blend all of that together. So in terms of diverticulitis from a scar tissue, from a craniosacral perspective, it would be, you know, if there's chronic inflammation and how chronic inflammation of the bowel might go into the peritoneum, which affects oxygen flow and tensegrity of the fascia. So I would wander around looking at natural anti-inflammatory measures as well, and touch and movement. So the book I recommended was a beautiful author called Sharon Blackie, and she's got a book called Haggitude about menopause, and If Women Rose Rooted, but the one I read this morning was Foxfire, Wolfskin, and Other Stories of Shape-Shifting Women. And other books I'd recommend, of course, is Kimberly Ann Johnson's, I think it's called Call of the Wild, and Tammy Lynn Kent's Wild Feminine. Really good books as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Claire. Trista, this one is for you. Let's see. I lost the question here almost. Yeah, I'm 71. I have a scoliosis, full S. I don't know what that is. Full S, full scoliosis. Will my prolapse improve, or because of my scoliosis, it won't? I got the prolapse at 71. Asks Digna Marrero. Trista, you're on mute. Yeah, we muted you because you were coughing while somebody was speaking.
Oh,
Now
sorry.
you go. There you go. Thought I should have told you that.
Yes, I don't see any reason why you can't get results if you have scoliosis. And I have seen clients with scoliosis or lumbar lordosis who have also gotten results, who have not been new moms, who have had pelvic organ prolapse, and they've had prolapse for years. It wasn't something that just came on. And I think also, when we're talking about pelvic organ prolapses, I think it's also important to mention that although a lot of times people's goals is to restore it and bring it back to nothing, sometimes it's about bringing it from like a symptomatic 3 to a non-symptomatic 2 or a 1, where they can enjoy a quality of life symptom-free and have an exercise technique that they can use to maintain and prevent further shift. So I think people get so hung up on the I need it to disappear, but there's so many people who, and this is not to like normalize it or whatever, symptoms are real for sure, but there are some people who have a 1 and they'll never know it, or that have a 2 and they'll never know it, and they are living their life symptom-free, et cetera. So I think it's important to not get hung up on the words to my prolapse to go away, to be like diagnosed with there is nothing there, but oh my God, have we changed your life? Can you go hiking? Can you do your house cleaning? Can you do what you want to do and be symptom-free? Whether it's because now you have a pessary that stays in. Whereas before it wasn't. Now it's easier to put the pessary in because the prolapse is lifted up a little bit and you're using it as a tool this way. So I don't want to say, yes, I don't know who you are. I've never seen you before in my life, but I have certainly, so I can't say, yes, your prolapse will go away. But yes, I have seen women who have had a lot of success, who have had scoliosis, a variety of ages, lumbar lordosis, kyphosis, et cetera, who have gotten great results.
Amazing. Yeah, I just want to add in here that we so often get questions where there's comorbidity. So I have a prolapse and I have X, and it can be anything. It can be like a chronic issue, like an autoimmune disease, and it's I think people in general are very specific about their own situation, but I think all of us can agree that, yes, you can always get better. It's nothing will be stopping you. Whatever you're experiencing, you can always start to take steps towards
100%. And it's one step at a time, one breath at a time, and one, little by little. Yeah, for sure.
This is a question for you, actually. And it's not mentioned here in the chat, but I just wanted to bring it up because about 3 years ago, you mentioned to me that when we talk about the prolapses, we're not going to say my prolapse anymore. And I'd like you to reflect on that a little bit, because we spent a lot of time, trying to get that out of our dictionary when we speak about it, and with our community when we write emails, or when we have live calls and so on. Can you just reflect on what that means, and why you shouldn't sort of associate it as my prolapses?
Is that your question or a question from
no,
me?
it's more
Okay.
my
Yeah. So well, this was a discovery that I did for myself on my healing journey, that I kept on saying in Swedish, though, most commonly, my prolapse. Like I always talked about the symptoms as mine. And then I was doing a lot of kind of mind over medicine techniques, I would categorize them as. And I realized that as long as I am going to say mine, the mind will work in such a way that it clings to whatever I call mine. So if I say my husband, my house, my job, like to things that I love, that's great. It's going to affirm for my brain and mind and all of that this is something I want to keep. But things you don't want to keep, it's not necessarily great to call them mine. So that's when I started to say the instead, because I could also see it, like how it transformed my thoughts in much more believing that this is something that is passing through me. It's an experience that I'm experiencing right now, and it will dissolve and go away, and I will grow from it. So it was for me a really effective technique, actually, to work on my thought patterns, and to also like a brain workout, to just like, my prolapse, and then you're like, no, the prolapse. And it was a really nice marker for myself.
Thank you, Philippa. Sam, this is for you. A couple are wondering, you mentioned you did a bunch of different therapies. Can you just quickly take us through what you tried and reflections briefly around them, please?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, very good question. So I've mentioned the hyperpressives. Hyperpressives for me is probably the silver bullet, really, of healing. I think I felt a lot of improvements within probably a month or two, and continue to do so. But I also tried block therapy. There's lots of information on Philippa's YouTube site, so I use that. You can start by using a rolled up towel, and then I transitioned onto a yoga block. This is where you lie on the floor on your tummy, and we're trying to break down some adhesions, trying to support the fascia and any scar tissue. So for me, I personally got a lot of relief and symptom improvement from doing that. You can start just by doing just a couple of minutes, a few times a week, and then I slowly built that up. I also did, I do this one every day, which is legs up the wall. So this is where you just lie on the bed and put your feet up on the headboard, or you can lie on the floor with some cushions underneath your pelvis. And this, at the end of the day, is very therapeutic for me, because I'm on my feet all day as a teacher, a school teacher. So when I get home, it just gives me just a few minutes of time just to reconnect with myself. And also I feel as if the gravity and the blood flow really helps the symptoms that I might be feeling at the end of the day, because sometimes I think when we've been on our feet, we might have those symptoms of heaviness. And I feel like just having 3 minutes before I crack on with the rest of my day, doing dinners, sorting out children, etc. It just gives me a nice moment just to pause, give my body just the initial amount of time that it needs before I move on with the rest of my day. I think that the meditations for me have really helped. again. It's looking at different thought patterns, trying to reconnect with ourselves within that space. I think that the biggest thing for me was just speaking about it. If I'm being honest, I've done lots of healing methods. But I think just sharing how I was feeling with family and friends, and journaling as well, that was a very positive experience for me. And just feeling as if I could give myself 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, which before I completely put everyone else first, everyone else's needs first, because that was how life was. But I think remembering who you are and your self-identity, and the fact that you need those few minutes to actually try and support yourself with your healing, and that you do matter. So I think for me, just negotiating time with family was also a key part of healing. But I have a whole list of healing methods, which I won't go through, but there's lots of information on Philippa's YouTube site and website.
Beautiful, Sam. I think we're coming towards the end of the questions. Couple more left. So, yoni steaming, can it be useful for spasm? And is there any advantages of doing yoni steaming?
Well, I would say yes, absolutely. Just as Dr. Bree said before, like heat, and also that it's not pressure, but it's still something like the steam is coming, it's penetrating the tissue in a very gentle way. So yes, I think we all agree. I would advise just having a look at the positioning that you are doing the vaginal steaming in. If you have prolapse, you don't want to increase like the pressure down when you are steaming. So just make sure that you're safe with that. But there are many options out there. So any other kind of
couple of last questions. Can you please share supportive underwear? Our underwear is available for prolapse, and where we can purchase it, as it's not available in many countries.
I can just say that these are not specific underwears. I know there are underwears that kind of has something to really support and kind of push in the prolapse. I have a video on my channel where I go through different underwear that I tried, because I was really limited by the feeling of different underwear, like going in, like they crumpled up and I felt chafing, and I couldn't really know if that was chafing from the prolapse or from the underwear. So for me, I had to have really nice, and I wanted them to be organic and like the nice materials, so it's breathable. But I don't know if anyone has anything to say about the other types of more supportive underwear. No.
Perhaps just considering underwear also that holds your lower belly and your waist, that comes right up to your belly button, if that feels comfortable for you. So it's not just the underneath support, it's the whole, not too tight, but just that sense of support, particularly if it's still after birth time, because that can help a diastasis find each other if your abdominal muscles have separated, particularly after birth. Wearing some firm but comfortable and not too firm knickers that come quite high can help with that separation, which can help down the track, because if you've got a really strong, beautiful abdominal muscles, then that works as a holding container. The abdominal muscles, the pelvic floor, your core muscles, the respiratory diaphragm, they all work together. So particularly after birth, high knickers can help with that abdominal muscles to find each other again.
I can just piggyback on that really quickly to make that, because I agree, I love that supportive feeling, but to make sure that it doesn't pinch too hard around the waistline, because that pinchy pressure feeling can be uncomfortable and also cause some downward. So I love that lift in the high waist, but without the pinching. So where can we find that perfect high underwear? I'm looking for it.
All right. Hey, I know we're past the hour. Just wanted to say thank you to all our wonderful speakers, Trista, Sam, Claire, Dr. Bree. And for all those watching live, a couple of hundred of you still with us, thank you so much. What we're going to do now is we've done a lot of recordings. A couple of you had questions around scar tissue remediation with Claire. Actually, we have a whole interview that we've done with Claire, and we're gonna drop that as well. So what we're going to do is we've created a playlist of here comes our little young son waking up. So we've created a whole playlist of videos that we're going to start playing now. So if people want to watch live, we've created a series, so you can just continue watching, and you're going to hear all our different speakers, the interviews. You're going to hear stories of triumph of women that have healed. You're going to get a lot of exercise videos along the way. You're going to get this in your inbox too, so you have access to them. So you don't have to feel like you have to watch all of it today. But we're just going to continue the stream. It's just that it's recorded, and I'll be here moderating the chat and trying to answer some questions. So yeah, we're just going to continue the stream, but we're going to end the panel today for now. And tomorrow we have Abby that's hosting her own session at 8 p.m. UK time, and she's going to spend a lot of time around breathing and posture and alignment, and introduce some hyperpressives as well. A lot of you had comments around breath work that Trista mentioned and Dr. Bree had mentioned. So tomorrow is a good day to deep dive. So if you want to catch us live and ask more questions live, 8 p.m. tomorrow UK time. And if you just want to stay on and listen to all the interviews we've done with wonderful practitioners covering all kinds of holistic therapies, stay back and enjoy the show.
And what about the book? I know many people are eager to know more.
Yeah, it's coming out day 3, so that's on Sunday. We'll be back at 10 p.m. on Sunday UK time, and we'll be going through a book reading session, introduce the book to you, and give it away for the first 1,000 people that are joining us. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, and everybody participating in the summit, and everybody that you will see are shared stories around healing in the book. So that will be amazing.
Beautiful. All right. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to continue the stream from my computer here. So thank you, Dr. Bree. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Trista. Thank you, Claire. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Start off by saying my wife, Philippa, was, she stumbled upon Shannon's work very, very early on in her journey. And I remember she telling me that there's a woman I just realized, I met, or I've discovered that has reverse prolapse mainly through the power of her mind. And that sort of completely opened her perspective and opened my perspective on what's possible and what we are not taught. So Shannon, today's session is going to be really inspiring for me and for the countless women that are listening to this. And obviously, you're going to be part of our book, Super Healers, and your story is such an important part of our book. So I'm really excited to welcome you. How are you, Shannon?
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here talking to you. And I know Philippa's journey and I know her story well. And again, it's an absolute honor to have played a part in that. And that was all that I really wanted to do when I set about helping other women, was to just share my message and hope that it inspired women to then understand how powerful they are. So I knew shortly after I was diagnosed that it was not that I knew, but I had the resolve in me to know that I would heal. And so I always had that intention that when I did heal, that I would help other women. And that has come through my Facebook group primarily. And I have put a couple of books out in my time, which aren't available at the moment because I'm re-releasing everything as a trilogy, which will come this probably towards the end of this year, and then there'll be the main book, which has been coming out for years, which takes, because it's, such a life's work, putting it into this book. So that'll be next year. But yeah, it's an honor. Thank you.
Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the books, and obviously tell us a little bit about your journey, if to get started with that.
Yeah. Sure. So the first book that I brought out was actually an affirmations book, to really help women understand that it is their power of their mind and their intention that can affect them on a cellular level. And so, you know, repeating these affirmations women with prolapse, they're scared. They don't have support generally. So this book was really a way to be the woman's best friend, really, and for her to start giving herself positive talk amidst the absolute fear and terror that they're in when they have prolapse. So I'm re-releasing that, and I've put in more affirmations, and there's some more aspects to the book which helps women integrate the affirmations more. So and the next one, the main question that I'm always asked in the Facebook group is where do I start? And so I thought, well, I need to put a book together that just gives women that foundational information of like they've just been diagnosed or they're self-diagnosed and like petrified, and it's a book that's like, okay, I can start here, I can pick up this, this, and this, and that feels right for me, and I've got some guidance, because that's something I didn't have. You know, I had no. When I was diagnosed, there was not one person online saying they had healed it. Well, I say except one that I took a long time to find in the back pages of Google. A woman in Sedona had been to see a healer and had healed. And that's all I needed at that time, was just one woman to say that she had healed, and I knew it was possible. So that kind of sparked my journey, just like Philippa found me. I had found this other woman. But until then, there were no prolapse groups supporting holistic healing or another way. I joined, I think there were like 2 prolapse groups at the time, and the main one I was kicked out of because I asked questions regarding holistic healing and, you know, wanting to know more about what could be done to heal. And yeah, I was kicked out, which I was like, that's so, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. So I thought about it and I thought, well, I'll start my own group and just share my story. And that's how it's kind of happened. That was probably, I'm not sure, it's probably about 5 years ago or something now that I started the group. So I've been healed for quite a few years now.
Beautiful. But Shannon, is it true? So you discovered the symptoms that you had, and when the realization that you had was that you could regain yourself primarily through the power of your mind. How did that insight start?
Okay, so I gave birth to my daughter in 2012. I didn't know anything about looking after myself post-birth. I just didn't know anything. I didn't have family support because my family were living away from where I was. And I remember I was a freelance journalist at the time, and I'd been home from the hospital for probably a week, and then I was sitting at the kitchen table writing a 5,000-word feature for a magazine, and that's, you know, stress and not there looking after myself and doing the things that I should have done. And so 3 months after, I went for a walk with my baby in a carrier and went for a walk for about an hour, came home and literally felt my uterus drop to the opening of my vagina. And I'd never heard of such a thing. And it was absolutely terrifying. And I grabbed a mirror. It was the only time I'd ever grabbed a mirror, because I refused to look ever again, because I didn't want to fixate on the physical, what was, because I knew if I had to change it, I shouldn't focus on that. And I say in my book, it felt like my brain had descended, because that's what it looked like to me. It was just horrific. And I came out and I said to my husband at the time, oh my God, I don't know what's happened. Something's wrong. And so I rang emergency line, and they said, you better get to the hospital as soon as possible. So we went with my daughter, who was 3 months old. We waited for 3 to 4 hours to be seen by a doctor. She lay me on a table and she said, oh, it's just prolapse. That's common. There's nothing you can do about it. You can have it sewn up once you finish having kids. End of story. See you later. And I was just absolutely like couldn't believe it, you know, that it was common and no one had talked about it. I'd never heard of it. So, you know, obviously I went home and began copious amounts of research. And from there, you know, I did the whole Kegels thing first. That was what you find online. When you go online, it's like you must do Kegels, and that's what I did. And, you know, I soon realized it made the symptoms worse for me. So I had to look elsewhere, and I guess I tuned into what my body was telling me, and that was, it wasn't a physical thing that I needed to focus on. So it was more, for me, I started with my chakras. I went and saw an energy practitioner, and she worked on my chakras, and from there it kind of led me to the nutritional side and to this practitioner and that practitioner and more of my own self-work. And I will backtrack a little bit, because I did go and see a Mayan massage therapist before this, and she had told me I had a particularly bad case, because it was literally, I say it's a grade 2, but it was, you know, a bad grade 2. And she said I had a particularly bad case, and she also said there was nothing that I could do. And then having that done so early in the piece made it worse as well, because I was, you know, she's physically manipulating something that was already weakened. So yeah, from there I went and I contacted a healer in South Africa who made chakra elixirs, Marcus, who I'm still friends with today. And yeah, I started using the chakra elixirs, and then my journey just, you know, went on from there. And but it wasn't all, you know, I didn't just do this, this, and this, and I was healed. It was like this.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
it was like things are, you know, I see movement and things are changing, and then one day it'd all just feel like it was back to where I started. But I knew, because I'd experienced some change in my symptoms, I knew I was on the right track, and I knew my body could heal.
Wow. But that insight, was that insight something you already had, that the body with the right support can get better, or was that insight that you had to cultivate during the darkest times?
Well, I've always, well, for a long time, I had a love of holistic healing, and, you know, I did my Reiki levels prior to this. In 2008, while I was living in America, I decided to change my journalism focus on holistic healing and natural therapies and natural beauty. And so from that point forward, it was all about the holistic approach. So I was already there. But, you know, throw prolapse into the mix, and it's such a, especially when you've never heard of it, and it's such a physical thing, you know, you just, in that fight or flight state that you're in, you will go and look at what everyone else is doing, and that is Kegels. And, you know, the thing is with Kegels is that, you know, you want to, I'm just talking about a uterus, for example. Kegels may strengthen your pelvic floor, but it's not going to pull the organ back up. So it cannot actually cure or heal a prolapse.
But Shannon, I'm still curious. So you're sitting there at the darkest hour of your life, possibly, and you're having people, trusted authorities, tell you that, you know, this is it. There's not much you can do. You come home. Where do you find the courage? Where do you find the agency? You know, that's where did it? I mean, how did you get started with that agency? Because there are a lot of women out there listening to us right now, with all the resources that we have today compared to 12 years ago when you had it, you know, still feeling that they need more agency. So I'm curious to really, if you can really take us through, you know, where you found that empowered self in you to go forward.
Yeah. Sure. It was that terrifying for me. And, you know, I get emotional when I think back to it and put myself back in that place, because it was so absolutely deeply horrific and terrifying. And to see that no one had any answers, I just knew that I couldn't stay in that state for the rest of my life. I refused to stay in that state for the rest of my life. And, you know, I did know about myself that I didn't have, you know, enough self-love, you know, most women, we berate ourselves all the time. We don't like what we see in the mirror. So I grew up like that, feeling very self-conscious. And so that creates over time an energetic state. And so I knew deep within my heart and soul that there was so many other aspects to this for me. And this was very early on, I recognized it in the middle of my pain. I recognized it as a blessing because I knew that this was sent to me as a gift to work through so I could become more fully myself and love myself and own myself. And so I guess that was the fuel. And I just refused. I just knew that the human body it's not meant to be that way. So, and I know that, like, when you scratch your arm or you break a bone, the body's always working in your favor. It's always moving towards equilibrium if you give it the right support. So I just knew if I kept giving myself the right support, and sometimes I went to the wrong practitioner and that wasn't right, and then I had to pivot this way. And, it was, how many years did it take me to heal? Over 4 years to heal. So it certainly wasn't all straight lines, but I just refused to stay those symptoms.
Wow. Where are you today? How do you, when you think about your pelvic floor and when you think about symptoms, where are you today?
Yeah, it's non-existent because I did all the work. Like I can, do everything I could do pre-prolapse. It's not even I know because I've done the work. It's not even I'm like, oh, could it come back? Could it, it's not, I'm not in that state at all because I've done the work.
Oh, wow.
And it's been probably like 8 years. And also I wanted to, there's a 4-year gap between a 5-year gap between my daughter and my son. And that was deliberate because I wanted to heal prolapse before I tried for another baby. And so when I knew that I'd healed, I knew it was okay to try for another baby. And he was a very big baby. And I gave birth in an hour. It was very intense. But because I'd learnt everything that I had beforehand and applied all the principles post-birth, even after having a big baby in a fast labor, I didn't have prolapse after.
Wow. This is such an inspiring story, right? I mean, you've walked the path and you're really showing the way to millions of women out there, saying that your body with the right support can indeed restore and regain. There's a new scientific word for it, Shannon, now. It's called homeostasis. And homeostasis is the concept of, there's a lot of new science that's showing exactly what you're talking about, which is the cells in your body want to achieve equilibrium. And if you provide the right support, the right conditions, you'll get there. And it's called homeostasis. You should check it out. You've lived homeostasis, so I think they should write a book on you about it, actually. But take us through a little bit of the strategies you used, things that worked for you and things that were less effective for you. And just walk us through your toolbox.
Yeah, sure. So, it can, I want to say, like, for any woman, it's not necessarily looking at what another woman has done for their own selves. It's about looking at what a woman has done and going, does that feel like a fit for me? Because every woman's story is different. And just because, let me just think, chakras and the chakra work for me, it might not work for another woman because that's not what she needs. So that's why when there's programs out there that say you need to pay X amount of dollars and you're guaranteed to heal at the end of this, I have to question it because we're not all the same woman. So for me, I did, like I said, I did the chakras. I did the Mayan massage, which didn't work for me, but I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just did it at a stage that wasn't right for me. I did nutritional work. I did kinesiology. I did a lot of meditation, guided meditation. I did EVOX. I did, I did a lot of things. Homeopathy was amazing for me. Homeopathy was probably, I came to homeopathy about 3 years in, and I'd come a long way. Homeopathy just got me over that last little bit that symptoms would come back around my period, that kind of thing. And yeah, it got me over the line at the end. And it's been amazing ever since. So I do highly recommend homeopathy, because it can be tailored to the individual woman and her specific circumstances. So I would look at a remedy that I use, because that's a remedy specific for me. So you'd want to see a trained homeopath. Yep, for sure.
Well, walk us through a couple of those terms. What was evox? That's something at least I've not personally heard of. And kinesiology.
Evox is yeah, so evox, let me try and explain it to the best of my ability. So it uses a hand cradle that measures your galvanic skin response. It's quite detailed. It's a computer program, and the practitioner asks you a series of questions, and she can see through your voice what it relates to. It could be ancestry, it could be anything. And so she talks you through that, and then you have to close your eyes while she plays music, and you're picturing what it is that she says to picture, and it helps to rewire the brain. Basically, it's quite profound. It's really powerful. Really incredible. Kinesiology is basically the body talking to you. So your own body talking to the practitioner, saying this is what's out of place, this is what's needed. Kinesiology is still my go-to today, and I made it a thing that I had to learn to muscle test myself. So I muscle test myself all the time. I teach my kids how to muscle test. They now muscle test themselves to know if they need a particular supplement or whatever. So for any woman out there, that's one of the main tools I'd recommend that they learn, is muscle testing, which is used in applied kinesiology.
And these are things that you could learn yourself in self-practice. Is that what you did? So you sort of met a practitioner, learned, and then self-practiced along the way?
Yeah. Well, you can learn to muscle test from a video on YouTube. It's actually that quick, and it's just a process of trust what you're getting is right, and then the longer that you do it, the more attuned you become. So if I go to muscle test now, I get the answer before I even do the muscle testing. So yeah, it's quite interesting. A wonderful tool.
Wow.
And I forgot to mention EFT too is really powerful. Emotional
tapping. Yeah. Tapping is great.
Yeah.
We love it here. Yeah, we love it here.
So I did that a lot.
But how did you find motivation, Shannon? I mean, you're sitting there, you're starting to find all these different therapies that are calling you and appealing to you, and you try them. But how do you stay consistent? How do you find motivation?
I think every day is different, and you draw on what you have in any particular day, because I remember one day having lunch, a work lunch, and having to walk back to the car with my work colleagues, and feeling like it was so scary, feeling like my uterus was going to hit the ground. And so in days like that, how do you find motivation? For me, that was going home. At the time, there was like a hill in the backyard. It was like an incline. So I would lie with my head down this way, my feet up that way, and I would lie there, and I'd put my hands on my womb, and I would breathe, and I would have that moment of reprieve from not feeling the symptoms and grounding myself. And that was, one of my go-to tools to take me out of that scared state to that everything's going to be okay state.
And did you have like a consistent practice that you kept, for instance, you were doing the guided meditations on a Monday, and then you had the muscle testing on a Tuesday, and did you have things like that, or was it more somatic? You just felt what you had to do and you did that?
Very intuitive. And that's the key to working with the body. The body needs, what you need 5 minutes before might be different to what you need 5 minutes later. So it's really, if I was to say to women, the most important thing to be consistent at is going within and learning to listen to your body. That is the main thing. So yeah.
How do you, for somebody who understands the words that you just said, learning to listen to your body, but doesn't know how to apply it, where should they start, or where could they start, and what does that look like?
Yep, stop being busy. Stop covering up the discomfort with adding more to your plate, adding more to, I've got to do this and that, and I'm going to start this project, and that's been my biggest learning is I would always make myself really, really busy. Sorry, I'm just moving messages off it. I would make myself really busy to stop having to deal with what's going on here. So that is, I guess, the best advice I can give. Stop making things to do and take the time to actually sit down with yourself. And it doesn't have to, I'm not great at silent meditation. I've never been good at it. I love guided meditations, but it could be just journaling and asking like the question, why do I feel like crap? Why is this symptom here? And super important to ask questions every single day, like out loud. What would it take for me to feel better today? Anything that you can think of, ask and you shall receive.
Interesting. Philippa had a rule in our house very early on that I'm not going to say your prolapse to her because she was like, it's on my prolapse to keep. What do you think when I tell this to my guy friends, obviously they don't get it, a lot of them. What do you say to skeptics out there saying this is all woo woo, this is all in your head? Obviously the science is catching up, but what's sort of your feeling of
there's
people?
always going to be that. There's always going to be that, and it really doesn't matter. It's just noise, because you either want to heal or you want to like make people that don't really matter happy, like by saying, oh yeah, you're right, that doesn't work. You just there's so much we don't know, and I think we are so much more powerful than we've been told. And modern healthcare, I mean, it's fantastic for emergencies, and I absolutely honour the modern healthcare system. But when it comes to things like prolapse and everyday health, it's vital to look elsewhere. It's important to look elsewhere, and it doesn't matter what anyone thinks, and that can be one of the practices that every woman could really focus on, is not caring anything about what anyone thinks, because it doesn't really matter.
Especially if it comes from an authority like a doctor or like a physiotherapist, or
absolutely.
I work a lot with the customer support at Moonrise and look at the questions that we get, and one of the most common questions and common things people ask is, can I get better, and when can I get better? How do you look upon those two questions, Shannon, given your journey in going through this?
Well, that's a symptom of the modern health system, because you've got a headache, you take a pill, you've got this, you take a pill, and then it goes away and you can get back to the busy. So there's no, I say to women, it took me 4 years, it might take them 4 months, might take someone 4 weeks, might take someone 4 days. There's no hard and fast rule, because every woman's different, and there are now more tools and more support than I had when I started. I had nothing, and so women are steps ahead because they have so much more information. But on the other hand, it can be too much information, too overwhelming. They don't know where to start, and it's prolapse is it's unique in a way when it comes to where to start and how to work with it, and quick fix. And I think any woman who has had it and healed will be able to say the same thing. There's no quick fix. There's no quick fix. But I said it depends on the woman and what path she follows, and if it is aligned with what her body needs in that moment, maybe it will be a quick fix for her. But generally speaking, it takes stamina and it takes resolve to heal it.
Beautiful, Shannon. I'm very conscious of your time. Do you have any final words before we end the interview?
I think it's just really important that women understand that they are powerful and that they don't have to listen to people who say what isn't possible. If you believe in your heart and soul that you can do it, if you don't want to live with those symptoms, you don't have to. You know, there's always avenues to follow, and it's definitely worth following different paths to try different things than just accepting it's not possible.
Beautiful. Shannon, where can people find you and your work and your books?
Yeah, sure. My website is my name, so shannondunn.com. So everything is on there. And the Facebook group is Prolapse Holistic Healing. Yeah.
Prolapse Holistic Healing is the Facebook group. Anybody that's watching this that
Correct.
wants to go deeper in Shannon's world, Prolapse Holistic Healing on Facebook and shannondunn.com. Shannon, it's been an absolute honor. I'm really excited to feature your story in our upcoming book as well. And yeah, thanks for all the amazing work you've done on yourself and now inspiring thousands of women out there. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Well, thanks for having me, Mahesh. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, so good day to you, Catherine. How are you today?
Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's late in the evening for you in Jamaica.
Yes.
It's early in the morning for me in Bali, so wonderful conversation to have. So, for the uninitiated, tell us a little bit about who you are and yeah, how you got affected by the symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction.
Well, I'm 61 now and I'm a mother of 3. And after I had my 3rd baby, the placenta didn't deliver, and so I had midwives through the birth and everything, and then they stopped a doctor on his way. I think he was going to do a C-section, so he was in a hurry and he pulled the placenta and snapped the cord, basically. So I had to have it manually removed. So my feeling is, with hindsight, that I think this was the beginning of the prolapse for me. And about 5 months later, I had the first symptoms. Went to the doctor and was given, just the pelvic floor exercises to do and kind of sent away. And then it was sort of okay, fine for about 7 years. And then it really just fell down out. So I went to a doctor, a male gynecologist, who said, oh, it's not too bad. You just need to get on with your life. It will either get worse or it'll stay the same. So I just basically asked him, well, what would you do? Which is kind of strange to ask the man, but he just said I wouldn't do anything, which in a way was sort of a good answer for me, because I didn't want to do surgery. So I thought, right, I'm doing the natural route. And I found a woman called Christine Kent, who'd written a book called Saving the Whole Woman. I think that's what it's called. And just started reading that and trying to do things that she was suggesting. And there was a big forum and there was quite a community online, but still very much, didn't speak about it publicly or tell any friends or anything like that. And then, but, wasn't really working. And then I went to get a second opinion, actually a woman gynecologist, who said, well, you could have an operation and you can have the mesh. But I'd read so much about that and I just wasn't that type of, I don't want to go that route. So just really wanted to do the natural route and just kept looking, because as you said, it's a journey. Sometimes the symptoms are not too bad and then sometimes they're very bad, and each time they're bad, you just look for other answers on the internet. And that's actually how I found Philippa, just Googling and finding her.
Yeah, I just want to come back to a couple of interesting things you mentioned there. One of them was the triggering event, it sounded like, with the placenta, and so, and how do you look upon that triggering event today? What were the emotional? Yeah, I'm sure you've had an emotional process around that, and that's the first question. The second question is around the surgery and how you sort of resonated, and also, can you take us through those 2 pivotal points that have sort of shaped your journey to where you are today?
Yes, I think when the birth trauma, I know that's what they call it now, happened, I didn't really realize it was anything but just something that happened, and this is how they deal with it. I think it's only lately where women have been talking about birth trauma that I realized it was traumatic, and you're just not told anything. You're not told that this may happen. You're not told how to kind of, I don't know, take care of yourself. So yeah, it was unexpected because it was my third baby, and I thought I'd just sail through everything. And plus I'd had 2 babies in Jamaica with really no problems, and then had gone to England and had one there, and it was all a little bit of a different situation, even though it's, in a developed country, I guess you feel it'll be, no problem. And the surgery, do you mean when they manually removed the placenta, or
No,
just
more. I mean, the option of a surgery looming when you met when
Oh.
you met the woman gynecologist and had a
yeah,
second opinion.
I knew I wasn't going to do surgery. I didn't want hysterectomy. I didn't want any mesh. I just have always been very natural about all things, natural childbirth, lots of breastfeeding. I just didn't trust the process. And I thought, I can do this by myself. I'm sure with diet, exercise, I can kind of not fix it, but manage it,
Yeah, that's interesting. So what did you say is the difference between fixing it and managing it?
Well, I suppose fixing it is never ever feeling it, and it's gone away and it's gone back up and all is fine. But I realized that's not going to happen, so just managing it. And actually, I was watching a video of Abby's, or something she did a few weeks ago, where she said it's really not about being symptom free. It's sort of just being less symptoms is really the goal, which I think is such a good goal, because I think in the beginning, I think I just wanted it to be healed, but just to have less symptoms is a reachable goal, I think.
Is it fair to say that you don't feel limited by it? You can carry on with all the activities you want to do, and that's a pretty good goal, rather than getting a clean chit from the doctor saying that you're completely healed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So can I ask you, where did it start? Have you always had the conviction that your body, with the right diet and the right lifestyle changes and the right support, can get better, or is that something you've trained yourself over time through experiences?
I think it just sort of quite naturally, really. I've been really really lucky with health. I haven't had any major health problems, so I've just always had the conviction, just with diet, more than, I haven't been a big exerciser, more of late, but just with just not putting rubbish into your body.
When you say it like that, it makes total sense. But when you're out there eating the third ice cream for the day, it's hard, obviously.
It's harder. Yeah.
No, but can you just walk us through how the symptoms affected your daily life and sort of the journey that you had when you had a lot of symptoms?
Oh, just feeling like very uncomfortable. Everything was difficult. Every kind of walking, movement, even sitting down, there wasn't really any relief from it. And then you just feel limited, I think. It's just always there. So you feel sort of captive by it. You don't want to really try any new things. Even walking the boys to school was a bit sort of blah. Yeah, very limiting, very uncomfortable.
What was the official diagnosis that you had, if you had one? Was it prolapse, or was it?
Yes, I think bladder prolapse, cystocele, I think is what they said. Yeah, and not really. They give you numbers. I didn't really have a number.
No.
Yeah. No.
That, on hindsight, would that have mattered, having sort of a grade or a number? Or it doesn't matter for you?
Not really, I don't think. No.
No, that's good.
No.
I mean, a lot of women write to us. I mean, I look at the customer support part of Moonrise, and look at all the emails that come in, and a lot of women write to us saying they got a grade 3 or a grade 4 or a stage 3 or a stage 4, and that sort of the message is that it's a little too far out, like
Yes.
it's gone a little too long, and the only option is
Mm.
surgery. Given
Mm.
what you know in hindsight, given the journey you've walked, what would be your 2 cents to women that are sitting there right now listening to us chat, that have a stage 3, stage 4, or feel diagnosed that they're way too far into the symptoms?
I would just say, don't believe that. I mean, it's not that you can reverse it, but you can certainly make it feel better. And for me, I mean, I have done pelvic floor, lots of other things, but actually the hyperpressives have been what's in conjunction maybe with the pelvic floor, but have been what made it feel a lot better. So
That's
just keep researching and keep trying things, I think.
Well, I mean, for somebody that it seems like, it strikes me as you're somebody who's very conscious about sort of the natural power of the body, give it good support, and the body will respond. But it also requires a commitment and a dedication, right?
Yes.
So when you discovered the symptoms and you started this path of discovery for yourself, how much time did you invest in researching? How much time did you invest in trying? And what was sort of your mental approach to it? Because you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and that can be a little unnerving.
Yes, I think I think I quite like a challenge, and so it was challenging, but I'm also quite determined. So I didn't take huge amounts of time, just reading and then putting into practice posture and few exercises. It wasn't a massive amount of time, really. It was just remembering to be disciplined and to do it on a daily basis, which comes and goes also. Because I did the hyperpressives, I think 2 years ago, but kind of on and off. But this year, from February, it's been dedicated, and it's made a difference.
I think that's a good segue. Take us through sort of your healing toolbox. What are the things you do, and how do you do them? When do you do them?
So I get up 5 and we go to the beach and we swim. Well, I do 3 mornings in the gym, some walking and some swimming, and I come back and then I do 15 minutes of hyperpressives 5 mornings a week. And the pelvic floor, I do 4 times a day, just little 10 of each, because I went to a therapist in England a couple of years ago, and she suggested I do them. She said I had a very weak pelvic floor, so I do them. Do they help? I don't know. I don't think they help on their own. But
so when you say pelvic floor,
know.
is that the Kegels? Is that what
Yes.
is that what you
Yeah.
all right.
Which
do you
I
do it
know,
assisted?
Just I have an app. I think if I didn't have the app, I certainly wouldn't remember, and it would have fizzled out already.
Have you tried not doing the Kegels a few weeks or a few days? Do you see any difference, or it doesn't matter for you? You just have a routine, and
I just have a routine. I don't think it's necessarily helps with the prolapse, actually, but I know it's the standard. That's what they told me in the very beginning, which was 2002, is just to do Kegels, but I don't think it helped. And I wasn't in a routine to do them very often.
No, our sort of principle here is that do what feels right for you. We're not going to say don't do it or do it, but doing it not mindfully and just hoping and wishful thinking might not be the right strategy.
Right.
So you do have it sounds like a wonderful morning routine with the beach. I do something similar since we moved to Bali here, but I mean, it's such a nice way to start your day compared to I don't know how long you lived in England. I lived in Sweden, and it's such a world of difference, living in a cold country, half the time it's raining, and that's good. So all right, so you have the hypopressives, you have the Kegels, so the pelvic floor therapy. You also mentioned you do some yoga and other things for your sort of general health, obviously, but also for your pelvic floor. Walk us through them.
Yoga, I just find something on the internet and follow modified. I know that I can't do the exercises that I can't do, like plank and boat and all those sort of things, and just use it, stretching, in the gym, I just generally do arm exercises, not too much. I just find I can't really do anything using my core. In fact, I went to the gym with my sister a couple of weeks ago, and actually was not good for me on my pelvic floor, which has taken about 2 weeks to feel a bit better. So, and you know, it's, yeah, I like the swimming. I do a lot of swimming. I think that's good for it.
Sounds like swimming and hyperpressives are the only two exercises that have low pressure on your pelvic floor, and it's good that you're doing them, right?
Yes, yes.
Because
Yeah.
they remove the pressure from your pelvic floor and they
Mhm.
sort of move it upwards. And hyperpressives
Yeah.
obviously does that with the breath work and the posture. What are your favorite
Yes.
hyperpressives, flows, or how do you do hyperpressives today?
I've been doing it really slowly. Like I'm just spent months doing the breath, getting the breath work, just lying down, and then added the arms, and lately sitting up and on all fours. So I'm doing it slowly and trying to do it properly.
Beautiful. No, you should take your time. And it's 15 minutes of self-guided flows. Is that what you do of hyperpressives?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. So take us a little bit through your diet. You mentioned
Ooh.
diet. Yeah, share as much as you feel comfortable. Diet is very personal, and
Yes.
obviously there's no silver bullet here. I can just interlude by saying the following. I've been a vegetarian for 36 years, and I'm 37. And the
Wow.
last few months, or last few weeks, I've been on a carnivore diet. And if somebody told me like a year ago, 6 months ago, I'd be doing that, I'd be laughing at them. So here we are. I mean, diet
Yes.
is very complex. So
It's
let's
very complex.
let's thread with that disclaimer.
Okay.
But tell us what you do.
Well, sort of like you, I was vegetarian for a long time. Then I was vegan for 6 years. Then I broke my arm, and I decided that I just needed more protein in my diet. So 2 years ago, started eating chicken, eggs, fish. Feel actually a lot better. My hair is thicker, and I just had to do it for my bones. So, and little things like I had a little bit of high cholesterol the other day. Don't want to go on the medicine, so I just added oats and green tea, and my cholesterol went down. So I just very conscious of what I put in my body. Everything I make from scratch. I mean, there are a lot of choices in the supermarket, but it's expensive. But if you go to the market, you can buy fresh produce, and I make everything because I don't want to buy any processed food, and I just feel better living like that and eating like that. And I think we don't have control over many things in our life, but I absolutely have control about what I put in my mouth. So I'm quite, it can be a little restrictive, like not too much, no sugar, and occasionally, like I do like ice cream. But yes, I just feel better if I eat like that. So it's healthy. But
Yeah,
like
beautiful.
you, I didn't think I'd be eating meat. I just thought
No.
no. But actually, I think it's as you get older too, your body changes, your bones need more protein. So I can be flexible, sort of.
Yeah, I think the significant moment for me with the change was that I tried everything for my thyroid and for my gut issues. Like I've had a lot of gut issues and digestive issues, and it just felt like I had nothing left to do with when it comes to the food I put in, and I have to try meat and go extreme, and then sort of I'm going to probably paddle back into the middle from somewhere from there, from the extreme I'm at right now. But yeah, I mean, if it feels better and you feel better and it helps you live a better quality life, and you're a better father, you're a better husband, you're a better wife, or whatever, whatever roles you have, I mean, then it plays an important role, right? So
yeah, I think so. Yes, I think so. And I just think, we can, our health is for us to control, and not just because the doctor says you should take this. I just have to question those things, and yeah.
Interesting. I have a few more questions around. You mentioned your age a couple of times, and again, back to the classic question of, I'm 60 plus, or I'm 70 plus. A lot of women that are watching this are probably in their 60s, late 50s,
Yeah.
60s, early 70s, even. What's your perspective on age, prolapse, and healing?
Well, I don't think you have to just accept that everything gets worse. I think you just have to, I guess as I've gotten older, I realize I have to give my body more time. If that means the food I eat or doing more exercise, I just don't want to live with lots of aches and pains. So for as long as I can not do that, I will, try different things. I don't mind getting older, but certainly I think, you just need to keep trying to contain your prolapse, or try to just make it, your life have a bit more quality, and just not accept that it just keeps getting worse the older you get.
Yeah, and when did you start actively working with the symptoms, like reversing it? Was it in your late 50s or?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. 2008. So, that's quite a long time ago, isn't it?
16 years ago. So that was like
16 years.
You
Yeah.
found your symptoms in your 40s, and you started working
Yeah.
through them in your late 50s.
No, sort of when I first got the diagnosis and everything, so that was 2008-ish. I started then, but not in a dedicated fashion. And I think maybe the symptoms then, they were pretty bad. And yeah, partly, yes, I suppose I thought, well, this is it. Have to just suck it up. But of late, it's been a very concentrated effort. The last 2 years, I'd say, of just.
And when you got started in your late 50s of having concentrated, focus on this issue, did you ever feel that you've sort of lost time and it's going to be an uphill battle, or that those thoughts never creeped up?
Not really, no, because I think things that I read do say that it doesn't really matter your age, and I learned with my arm that muscles respond. They just respond, because I had said that to the physio, because I'm old, is it going to take me a long time to heal? And he said no, because muscles respond. It's how much time you put in and how much you exercise. And I did faithfully do 3 times a day, 45 minutes, because I refused to accept that my arm wouldn't have the range of motion that it used to have. And it's fine. It does have all the range of motion because I worked it, and I think that made me feel so I can work at other things now. I can
beautiful,
be dedicated.
Beautiful, yeah. Beautiful. So refusing to accept the reality, I think, is half the battle won, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. It's not maybe easy, and it's not something you maybe want to do every day, but I learned, like, who benefits from this exercise? Well, me. So why would I not do it then? And
that's right.
with the hyperpressure, it's 15 minutes a day in the morning. Yeah. And so, we can sit on our phones for an hour and not realize it was an hour.
Yeah. Hour. It's hours, right?
Hours.
But
yes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, how was the support around you? Like,
I'd say none. Yes. Yeah, really none, actually, until recently, when it's been more publicly spoken, and you can find a lot more on the internet now, and women are talking about it, aren't they? A lot more.
Yeah. But did you share this with your sister, for instance, or anybody in your family, or was it your private matter and you kept it to yourself?
Well, obviously my husband, my sister, and I mean, I have 2 sons in their 20s. They both know. And it just sort of, because we are quite an open family. But I mean, I haven't really told any girlfriends. Actually, I was swimming with a friend the other day, and her daughter is works in a, I don't know if she's a radiologist, but she was called in to help a woman who was having a prolapse. They were trying to take, I don't know what they were doing, taking ultrasounds. And she described this to her mother as being absolutely disgusting and awful, and it looked horrific, and she was going to be sick. And so I'm swimming with her thinking, well, I'm never going to tell her I have a prolapse, because so I still think people, if it doesn't happen to you, you do think it's a horrible thing. But
should we send her the copy of the book with your story in it?
well, I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. It's your call. You're going to get a copy anyway. No,
Oh,
but
thank you.
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I work only with women these days, so I miss a lot of man company. So I spend a lot of my leisure time with men and do manly things. Lift
Yes.
weights, sit in the sauna, do ice plunges,
Oh,
play a lot
wow.
of sports. Yeah, I know. So and all my guy friends just don't get it, that this
No.
is sort of my this and I can imagine that there's some kind of a cycle that needs to be broken, where women are open sharing, which is happening clearly, and,
Yes.
and men are open accepting it, and
Yeah.
because this is a personal question. You can avoid it if you like, but when Philippa went through this, one of her biggest fears was that I would leave her as her husband, because she was not able to we were not able to be intimate. Did you have fears like that, and how did you manage that?
I didn't really, because my husband also was very, supportive, not put off by it or worried by it. So actually, I didn't have those fears. No, he was great.
That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. So there's a couple of last questions, Catherine. So looking back, what do you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey with prolapse? Do you have anything that you were like, I wish I did that earlier, or I wish I knew that could be useful for women that are starting their journey today?
Well, I think I wish I'd known it was a possibility. I mean, I just had no idea. And I think I've read other women's stories where it's you just think part of you is falling out, and it's just it. So I wish that somebody had told me, or we knew that might happen. Just more, I think, more help, more women that you could perhaps come into contact with, more options from the doctors and the physios, that it's not just Kegels. There are other and things to avoid too. Yeah, I think that's it. And yes, but again, we just didn't speak about it too much though in those days.
No. Finally, what's your sort of closing statement, if you may, for women that are listening to you or reading the book, that have clearly symptoms of prolapse or pelvic floor dysfunction and are very skeptical about what their future would look like, or very, very uncertain?
I think just don't lose hope. Research as much as you can. Find exercises that you feel comfortable with. Find other women to talk to. Yeah, I mean, it might not ever be healed, but you're not broken. It's just something that happens to lots of us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just try and find a community and then you see other people same as you, better than you, worse than you. I mean, yeah, you're not alone in it, and there is hope, and some days are much better than others. So just keep going.
Beautiful. Catherine, thank you so much for your
You're welcome.
for being so open, for being so brave, for breaking the mold, and for doing the work, and for being an inspiration by talking about respecting the body's process for natural healing, and respecting how to listen to it, which I think is a skill that many of us have forgotten. So thank you for putting that back on. Yeah.
Thank you for all the work you do, and to Philippa too, because she's been an inspiration to me. So I thank you both for everything you do, and all of your team.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have a wonderful team. Obviously, we're very dedicated with Abby and Philippa and Trista and all our teachers that believe that, we can indeed get better. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Take
One
care.
second. I'm just going to stop the recording here.
The file to us as a Google Drive file or or as a link. Yeah. So you're familiar with that. That's no problem.
Yeah. So the women as well, they're looking for, I think the way that we've worked with the ladies that we work with is that we want to introduce them to as many different modalities as we can, because not one size fits all. Yeah. And some things will really resonate with people from somewhere else. And we want to just make sure that we're giving them as much information as we can, because there's just not enough information out there for people, really, still, even now.
I know, it's when you've been doing it for so long, you think everybody must know this by now, but I still hear every day, I've never heard of that, or I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's just about, again, it's about raising awareness, isn't it, Mahesh? It's much more.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. So we're trying to get about 15 to 20 different types of women coming at it at different ways, talking about well-being and health, and talking about healing and sort of doing things naturally and supporting your body, and obviously feeling more empowered in your decisions. So that's sort of the goal. And this sort of a free event we want to do to just build awareness. So there's no direct business or anything from Moonrise or anything that we do at all here. So we realize that a lot of people there's so much misinformation, or as our friend Trump says, there's so much fake news still. So we need to get rid of the fake news.
That's what we're doing. We want to cut through all that rubbish, and we want to present the ladies that we know and other ladies that might be out there with people who know what they're talking about.
And there's no one right answer. And my angle at it is I'm the curious outsider that happened to get thrown into the world of pelvic floors. I don't know what. Sometimes I just wonder, what am I doing? But here I.
He says this to me regularly, don't you?
I know.
What am I doing?
5 years ago, if you told me I'd be having conversations with you, lovely ladies, I'd be like, what am I smoking? So here we are. So I'm a curious outsider. And obviously we're going to have a personal story at the start of the sort of the release, where my mother had it, my wife had it, my mother-in-law had it, my grandmother has it, and it's you get it. So yeah. All right. So what I think, if it's okay for you, Kim, I'll do a quick introduction, and then let's just get chatting and let's see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's have fun. Yeah. All right. Shall we go? So 3, 2, 1. So welcome to another episode of the Super Healers event. And here today I have the absolute pleasure of having Kim Wapney, known as the Vagina Coach. I love the moniker, by the way, Kim. And as a leading authority on pelvic health and fitness, you've had over 15 years, maybe 20 years of experience. You've empowered thousands of women to prevent and overcome pelvic floor challenges. You've raised the bar. You've literally, were one of the first people to talk about this. And you've had 2 influential books: Prepare to Push, What Your Pelvic Floor and Abdomen Want You to Know About Pregnancy and Birth, and Your Pelvic Floor, A Practical Guide to Solving Your Most Intimate Problems, that you published a couple of years ago. So you've been doing this for many years, and you have such an interesting take on health, well-being, and of course pelvic floor. And you've had your own story. So Kim, welcome, and take us through sort of how did you get started, and a little bit about your story, and how you overcame the challenges that you had.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words, and I do get kudos on the Vagina Coach. And it wasn't a mistake. It was a kind of accidentally on purpose. It was a joke. I was making a presentation and I joked that now you have a Vagina Coach for your business. But it was a time where I was thinking I needed a bit of a rebrand, because I was shifting a bit in terms of the population that I was working with. And what started as a joke is now this brand that I work under. So thank you for liking it. But how I got there, it started, I could go back all the way to 6th grade. I saw a childbirth video and I thought, nope, not interested. But I went and spoke to my mom and said, well, you did it. And, what happened to you in your births? And she started to share her journeys. She had a episiotomy birth. So that was another kind of check mark to say, nope, not interested in doing that. And so I grew up thinking I was never going to have children. And then, of course, you get older, I got married, decided I did want to start a family. I watched my sister-in-law give birth. That was a bit of a TSN turning point for me, where I saw birth done differently than what you see portrayed in the media. And the following year, I was pregnant. I was using midwives, which is what my sister-in-law did as well. And they had recommended a product to me called the Epino, which is a biofeedback device from Germany. And this was my first introduction to the word pelvic floor, and really with my goal of not tearing, because in my mind, knowing my mom's story, she had episiotomies, which is essentially cutting instead of somebody naturally tearing. I thought, well, if I don't tear or if I don't have an episiotomy, then I will not have the issues that my mom did. That was my thinking at the time. And so I used this device and I had a great experience. I didn't have tearing and I thought, great, I'm fine, I'm good. I used it again with my second birth 2.5 years later, same thing, I had a great experience. And I'd also then contact the company to say, why doesn't everybody use one of these? Because if it can do all these remarkable things, they had some research behind it with, preventing tearing. Why doesn't everybody know about it? And could I help increase awareness here in Canada? So my intention wasn't for it actually to be a business. I thought I'll just sell a few on the side. That was 2004. And then it was a little bit of a side thing for a few years. 2009, it became more, I was laid off from my full-time job. I was working in HR at the time, but I had a background in fitness. So prior to working in HR, I was a personal trainer and I was doing all the things from boot camp to OsteoFit with the seniors in the swimming pool. And I kind of covered it all. And as I was talking about this product, I was recognizing that there was fitness principles that I was applying to a group of muscles called the pelvic floor. And so that was where I started to say, well, if this is a group of muscles and we train other muscles these ways, why aren't we doing the same with the pelvic floor? So that's kind of how that started. And then, so I recertified fitness. I started my business, had an e-commerce store for a while. Then I was recognizing this void in postpartum recoveries and learning about diastasis and the link between pelvic floor. So I started a second business with 2 other women called Bellies Inc. And we wanted to bring in what other cultures around the world were doing, very much honoring this postpartum recovery. And we in North America were it was a sprint to the gym, who can look not pregnant as fast as possible. And we wanted to change the narrative around that. So we started that company and we manufactured our own wrap and coupled it with a pelvic floor fitness program. So kind of juggling those two. And then 2 of us were fitness professionals. One was a pelvic PT. And we saw this huge void in the fitness industry where, again, we learn about all of the other muscles in our body, but we're never learning about the pelvic floor, even though we talk about core exercise all the time. Pelvic floor is part of the core. So then we created a certification course to help educate others within their scope. So we are not internal therapists, but a lot of what we can do, we can screen for these things and help refer people on to pelvic PTs and recognize that some of the ways that they are training in fitness could potentially, I don't want to say be necessarily harming, but maybe they could be doing it more effectively and getting better results and not dealing with the symptoms that they currently have. And then throughout that journey, my partners and I, we start to go through perimenopause. We start to have our own pelvic floor challenges. I had incontinence. I've had every type of prolapse. Another partner had a hysterectomy. So we kind of covered this basis and we said, you know what, this isn't just do your Kegels on pregnancy or wrap and do restorative exercise postpartum. It's really this lifelong journey that we have with our pelvic floor, and we deserve a whole heck of a lot more attention and information than we get. So then Bellies Inc. is now sold. And really what I do now, I would say the majority of who I support is that perimenopause, postmenopause population. So I've kind of gone through that life cycle. It's like people have followed the same timeline that I've been on. And and along the way, did a couple books. I have a podcast, but really I'm very passionate about this topic and getting information into the hands of more people that allows them to help themselves, but will allow them also to tell others, because we need to lift this veil of shame and embarrassment that has held people in this silent suffering state for a really long time.
Yeah, 100%. I remember my wife going through this, and then 12 months later, she started getting better. We were in India speaking to my mom, and my mom broke down because she's like, I've had this for like 8 years. And it was like, nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And then when my mom started talking about it, my grandmother broke down, and she was like, I've had it for 24 years. So it's like,
Yeah, it's super common.
that's when the penny dropped for me, when I realized how common it was. And so thank you for sharing. But just back to you, Kim. Sort of you were doing HR, you got laid off, you got thrown into the deep end of the pelvic floors, it sounds like. But you've also gone through your own journey, right? What's sort of been your reflections, going through your own journey and working with thousands of women today? When you look back at your journey, what are some of the key takeaways, that's brought you where you are today?
I think a big one is I went into my births with more information than at the time a lot of people had. I think there's more awareness now. More people are going in with a bit more information about pelvic health. However, I went in with a little bit of knowledge, and with the knowledge I went into, I thought, if I don't tear, I will be fine. And it sort of pointed out to me, and still points out to me, that it's not just about do some Kegels, which is, if anybody's heard anything about pelvic floor, it's usually Kegel exercises.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from the work that Dr. Arnold Kegel did. He was advocating for his patients who were struggling, and he devised this exercise, and I think that's great. However, I feel it's limiting in terms of its effectiveness, and we need a broader scope of information and applicability. So I think that was one piece where it was sort of, we hear this one word, or we think, if I do this, I'll be fine. And it's just like brushing our teeth. It's this lifelong practice, but again, nobody's planted the seed of that importance. So I always equate it to going to the dentist. And I remember, I think it was third grade or something, the dentist comes to the school, and we chew these pink pills, and it highlights all the plaque on your teeth. And we look in the mirror and we say, oh, gross. And so there's the motivation to brush our teeth and floss and go see the dentist once or twice a year. And if that seed was planted earlier in life about the importance of this group of muscles called the pelvic floor, and that we have professionals like pelvic floor PTs that we can see once a year for a checkup, even if you have no symptoms, I think literally the world would change. So that's one thing. I think is just that a lot of people say, oh, if I do this, I'll be fine. Or if I fix a problem with some Kegels, I'll be fine and never have to do it again. The other is I would say a big one for me was recognizing, experiencing prolapse and the limitations I felt. So incontinence, I feel, is something that it's common. We can put a pad in. It doesn't really, it's annoying. It's bothersome. People don't love it, but prolapse is what halts people in their tracks. And I felt that. I felt the fear of movement. I felt the avoidance of intimacy. I felt the shame. I'm a pelvic health professional. How did I get prolapse? I chose to have surgery for one of my types of prolapse, which is very tricky to reverse. I chose surgery for it. Again, felt like a hypocrite, felt the shame, felt the embarrassment, booked it and canceled it 2 times before I went ahead with it. So I felt from a very personal level what many of the people that I work with also feel. And I think that helps make me relatable. I think I for a long time actually was afraid to share my story, because again, when you're the expert, you're supposed to be the one that did everything right, and you're invincible, and now you're trying to preach to everybody else so they can experience the same thing. But the moment I started to share, like, hey, this was my story, and I struggled with this, and this is what I did, and that didn't work, and I tried this, then all of a sudden you become a human, and you're not just some person on the internet who has a program to sell or something like that.
It's really important. It's really important for us to, as people who work with pelvic floor and with women, is to come across as really relatable to them, but also to share those stories, because they're embarrassed and they're ashamed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's come from a state of, I was fine. Some of my ladies are like, I had a C-section. I didn't expect anything to happen. And it's about reframing that to, right, where we are now, So what are our next steps going to be? How are we going to approach this? How are we going to create a healing process for you? And that healing process looks different for everybody because everybody's an individual. But yeah, I have lots of women who come to me who are like, well, you know, oh, Abby, I've booked an operation for my rectocele because it's the thing that's really bothering me the most. And it is the hardest thing. The rectal prolapse and the rectocele are the hardest things for us to reverse and for us to action. And they're expecting me to be cross with them. And I'm like, I'm not cross. This is your body. And you're now taking action based on what you know. And that's really important to have that knowledge behind you.
Yeah, that's so huge. And that's exactly how I felt. Like, how am I going to now communicate this decision that I've made to my community? And I thought, you know, of course, I was thinking from a business perspective. I'm also thinking just from a personal, like all these people who are in my community who follow me and trust me. And now I'm making this choice that I've kind of been directing people away from. But it was in that process where I said, this is an option that is available for people that many people choose. And it's another time where they have zero information about preparing for it, recovering from it, getting back to fitness. And so in the end, it turned out to be a really powerful time. People saw that I
was really happy when you did, Kim.
Yeah,
I was
standing
really,
up
really
and saying,
happy when you did.
Yeah,
you know,
this is my story and I'm being vulnerable and this is all that I've tried. And sometimes this is the best option and this is what I'm going to do. So then it became a whole other process for people to follow along and that I could support people through, which I hadn't looked at it through that lens at the start.
And the preparation is so important. If people are choosing to go forward and have surgery, the preparation, but also post, what happens afterwards is important. And they're not given this information at the hospital. I know that they're not, because I've had clients go through it. So it's about that you recording your journey publicly has given people like almost like a roadmap towards what they could, how they could prepare and what they can do afterwards, which is just wonderful. It's really good. I've pointed lots of my clients in your direction to I'm like, you need to look at what Kim's done and the way she's gone through it to prep for it, because I haven't had surgery. And so it's really nice to have a real story for people, a real person, you know, for people to follow.
Yeah. And the really important piece that I still try to get across to people, which I know you will agree with, is even so we give all of these tools to our clients, and it's up to them really to action them. And sometimes their actions will result in the change in symptoms, improvement, elimination, wherever, take them towards a goal. And sometimes it won't. That doesn't mean that this has been a waste of time. This has all been your prehab, and everything that you have learned and everything you are doing is what will continue to be and what is essential for it to continue to be your life. Just like we brush and floss, we don't stop brushing and flossing if the dentist says we don't have any cavities. We carry on. That's our maintenance. And so that's a big part of this whole story, is that the preparation, we have to train for surgery. We have to set ourselves up for recovery. We have to understand how to get back to fitness, and everything that we've been doing in that preparation is ultimately what's helping us be successful.
Rehab afterwards. Yeah.
But Kim, I mean, today, Abby hadn't asked me anything, right? And one of the questions was, you know, a postpartum mom, 4 months in, and she has a bunch of things going on with her pelvic floor dysfunction. And it almost becomes, she meets her physio or her doctor and they recommend surgery. You know, given the hindsight,
surgery at 4 months, Mahesh.
Yeah,
I know.
You know, at 4 months, and I'm at 4 months, your body is still naturally healing for like up to 2 years. You know, your fascia and connective tissue is not even really started healing yet. You're still in trauma. Your tissues are still in trauma. And she's been recommended surgery.
So she was a little bit of she was, you know, almost close to breaking. I mean, like she was close to tears. She was like, I don't know what to do. And Kim, having gone through what you've gone through, and, you know, talking about the preparation, talking about the fact that you canceled a couple of times, there's clearly a lot of, you know, there's a lot of thought process behind this. What's sort of the decision-making, you know, framework, if at all, although I know it's very unique to every person, that you would recommend, or you have used at least for yourself and see a success from customers, you know, going through this choice and deciding, should I hop on this train or this train? And which stops do I get on, and how does the whole journey look like? Yeah.
What I did and what I impart on others is, well, really it comes down to, here's the information. You can do with this information what you please and make the best decision for your body, whether that is to try all of these things first and see where you end up, or say, I'm just tired of it and I'm going to go forward, but please just listen to the kind of the prehab advice. That's generally how I present it. But I lived with erectocele symptomatically for 9 years. So when I was pregnant, when I used the Epinode device for my births, I had never heard of the term prolapse before. It wasn't until I was speaking to a doctor trying to educate them about the Epinode, where they questioned, it was 2 doctors actually, and they said, oh, I wonder if that would, if somebody has a cystocele, could they still use that? And in my head, I'm thinking, what the heck is a cystocele? And so, and they started carry on their conversation, and they sort of self-answered. But I then went home, and of course I Googled what is a cystocele. And so the education that I didn't have means that I could have maybe had this earlier. I didn't know about pelvic floor physiotherapy until years after my second child was born. So who knows if it started earlier and that, or it just wasn't symptomatic or not. But anyway, I lived with it for 9 years symptomatically, tried all the things, the diet, the sleep, the exercise, the hypopressives, pelvic floor PT, I didn't do any injections at that time. Pessary wasn't successful given how low the rectocele was. So kind of tried all of those things. Along the way, it was the perimenopause.
Yeah.
I say,
helpful.
Shitstorm, pardon my language, but there's a lot of craziness that happens with perimenopause. I ended up having an autoimmune thing as well. So there was all these other little layers, and it was uncomfortable at the time, but it's also highlighted that this pelvic floor story is not just about Kegels. It's not just even hypopressive. Like, there's so many other facets to this. And that means that we have so many opportunities to make change in our bodies. If we have some trust and some good guidance and some faith and, these resources and these tools, we then make the choice. Am I going to apply these or not? And if we do, we give it a period of time. If it's not helping, move on to the next and kind of knock out these things. And if after all of that, a good college try, 6 to 12 months of doing all the things that's not working for you, doesn't even have to be that long, but if the symptoms are really interfering with the quality of your life and you've really tried everything, we have a really great option here called surgery. And there's no shame in it. There's no embarrassment. It's a great option. There are risks. Let's see if we can mitigate those risks with everything that we have been doing. So my process was eliminate all of the conservative options first. If none of those are working and I've really exhausted all of the things, then I need to consider this. And the reason I canceled, one of my contributing factors was constipation. And with that perimenopause zone and an autoimmune condition contributing to the constipation, and also very, very, very heavy bleeding. And so I was very symptomatic. I booked the surgery because I was like, I've been living with this. At that point, the first time I booked surgery was probably about 6 or so, 5 years or so, that I've been dealing with it. And then I said, you know what, I can't. I have this, I know if I don't address constipation, the likelihood of this coming back afterwards is very high. So I need to get on top of that. So canceled. Then I got the constipation under control, but the heavy bleeding was still bothersome. And I said, not that heavy bleeding is going to disrupt my surgical repair, but what if I'm bleeding heavily on the day of my surgery? What if I start bleeding heavily when I'm recovering? How am I going to know if that's right? So I needed to address that piece first. So kind of like root cause investigation, get all the things in check, put yourself in the best state possible. Even if your pelvic floor is if you're still struggling with symptoms, get your inflammation down, rest, build muscle, eat properly, stay hydrated, all the things. And then you're going to go in very powerfully to your surgery. And you're also going to know what to do from a recovery perspective.
But Kim, that sounds like, you've really understood your body, and that's probably, is it fair to say it's largely because of the work you did trying to heal naturally, that you really started connecting with your body, that you understood how to listen to it. You understood the symptoms, the root cause thinking, because a lot of us go blind into a recommendation given by an authority.
Right.
Right. But this is literally the opposite. This is literally you saying, I've walked the path and I know exactly what I'm doing now. And that takes time and that takes courage, which is really what you did. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yeah, I think so. The other thing I think is I grew up, my mom was an OR nurse, very medical. We go to the doctor every year. We put our faith in what the doctor says. And I still believe that we are incredibly fortunate to have them. However, in the work that I've done, many healthcare systems in the world are more sick care as opposed to healthcare.
Yeah, very much.
And so I started to sort of question the pill for the ill mentality, the surgery for everything, probably around the time, like fairly early after I'd given birth, and started to look more into naturopaths and learning about functional medicine. And so that was also playing a role where I said, I want my doctor for if I need pharmaceuticals, if I need surgery, but they are not the experts in the other conservative approaches, in diet, in lifestyle. They are the sick care model. And when I'm sick, I am happy that they're there. So that also played a role in sort of questioning, is the medical system, the medical sick care system, best for everybody? But so many people have this blind faith in their doctor. I'll do what my doctor says. And if my doctor has recommended this, they don't question it because we've put them on a pedestal for a long time. And I don't mean to take away from that. They're incredible. But collaborative approach is, I think, what serves people best from a true health care system.
Yeah, I mean, my doctor is amazing, and the doctors in the NHS are amazing as well, but they are general practitioners, so they have a little bit of knowledge of everything,
right?
So that they can look after you when you come to them with acute things or chronic things that are happening to you. They're not, I mean, within the medical, I think they get a day on the pelvic floor in their medical training, so it's not a huge amount of information. And I know when my doctor looked at my prolapse, she was like, you have prolapses. I can't tell you what they are. I just, it's not right. I was like, this is really helpful. I know it's not right. And she was very honest about, and she's been very supportive about, and always asks about all the weird stuff I'm doing for people now, as she calls it. And she always recommends people. She's very
awesome.
much, which is really great. It's that working together. It'd be nice if we had more of that, Kim, more of the medical side or the sick care working with the kind of the
prevention side of things, and it would be
exactly.
it'd be
I love I love the metaphor with brushing your teeth and the preventative model, if you may. But what's stopping the world from taking more steps there, or are we actually doing it and it's just happening? We're standing on the mountain and we don't see it. Is that what's happening, or are girls getting more aware? Are women getting more aware to work preventively or preventatively? How you say it?
Yeah.
Is it happening?
I see it happening, not quickly. I think the younger generation is much more informed. They're much more comfortable talking about everything. I don't see it shifting yet. Like, I don't think that they are getting in-school education. They are learning from social media. They're learning from mothers. There's a lot of us in the kind of this pelvic health. Somebody at one point many years ago, when Twitter came along, we had a hashtag called Pelvic Mafia. So this pelvic mafia is now out there preaching to many of the women who are seeking help, who are mothers. And those mothers, not all, but many, are then now telling their daughters and their sisters. And so word of mouth is shifting that conversation. And I do think that older generations, the oldest person in my community is 93. And I just absolutely, it makes my heart sing that she hasn't given up, that she just didn't accept that it's too late. She's still in there making progress on her symptoms. And I love that. But there's many people in my mom's generation, my mom's almost 80, where you don't talk about it.
They won't talk about it.
Nope. And they still just aren't comfortable with the word vagina. They're not comfortable talking about their body. Right. And so.
Yeah. My mom won't even say what I do for a living.
Yeah. Yes, I know. So my mom was very open with anatomical terms. So thankfully she has, it made me cringe back in the day when you're learning about sex ed with your brother and your mom and you know, at the time, but that planted a seed. And obviously I'm very comfortable with proper anatomical terms. And I think we are doing a disservice to our children by not teaching this stuff to them. When we're teaching them about menstrual cycles, when we're teaching them about sex ed and bodies, why aren't we planting the seed about the importance of this group of muscles called the pelvic floor? So I do see it shifting. The younger population is becoming more aware, they're more informed. The older population is still a little bit uncertain, hesitant. Exactly. That's a fantastic word. And then just one more point, Abby, you were saying with the doctors not receiving a lot of training as it pertains to the pelvic floor for the general practitioners. There's also the menopause piece. So the world is exploding around the conversation of menopause. And one of the things that's highlighted is how little education doctors receive about menopause. And there's a huge part of menopause called genitourinary syndrome of menopause, which is the pelvic health component. So indirectly, the pelvic health conversation is getting some awareness and some conversation around it. And so all of this is happening. So I do think, yes, it's not changing as fast as we want, but I have seen major progress from the time, like it's been 20 years. So that's a long time that I've been doing this, but specifically in the last sort of 3-5 years, there's been tremendous shift in awareness.
Because I mean, only 7% of North Americans were brushing their teeth in the beginning of the 19th century, right? And then there was this whole.
Facts, man.
No, I love. Listen, I'm reading a lot of books about how to change habits because this is my fifth industry I'm working in, and the last couple of industries I was working in TV, and we spent a lot of time looking at how to change people's habits and how to create new sort of cultural mini cultural revolutions. And I remember there's this